The day the sky turned silver was the day humanity's history changed forever. It started as a strange shimmer above major cities worldwide: New York, Mumbai, Tokyo, Lagos, all at once. People stopped in the streets, phones raised to capture the phenomenon. Then the shimmer solidified into massive crystalline ships, elegant and terrifying in their alien beauty. News stations abandoned scheduled programming. Social media exploded with theories and panic. Military jets scrambled worldwide only to be effortlessly disabled mid-flight, pilots finding themselves safely but mysteriously returned to their bases with engines cold. 3 days of worldwide tension followed. Governments issued conflicting statements. Religious leaders called for calm. Ordinary people stockpiled supplies as grocery stores emptied. On the 4th day, they made contact. The transmission appeared simultaneously on every screen on Earth: televisions, computers, phones, even electronic billboards. The being that appeared looked almost human, but with skin that seemed to shift between translucent and solid, revealing faint bioluminescent organs beneath. It wore what appeared to be ceremonial armor, made of the same crystalline material as the ships. People of Earth, the translation began, the alien's mouth movements not quite matching the words. I am High Commander Day of the Talian Empire. Your world has been selected for integration into our dominion. The United Earth Council, a previously symbolic body of representatives from all nations, was suddenly thrust into real power. They gathered in Geneva, surrounded by military and scientific advisors, watching as Commander Day explained humanity's options with the casual confidence of someone who had delivered this message 1,000 times before. Every sentient species we have encountered has chosen wisely, Day continued, a slight smile revealing teeth like polished quartz. Immediate surrender ensures minimal disruption to your civilization. Resistance, he paused, has never lasted long. In the council chamber, representatives argued through the night. The Talians had shared just enough about their technology to make their point. Their ships could manipulate gravity. Their weapons could selectively disable electrical systems or organic nervous systems. They had conquered worlds that humanity had barely detected with our most powerful telescopes. We cannot fight them, insisted the American representative. Our most advanced weapons would be like throwing stones at a tank. Then we become slaves, replied the representative from Kenya. Is that what we tell our children, that we gave up without trying? On the screen surrounding the chamber, reports came in from astronomers and scientists who had been studying the Talian vessels. The aliens had positioned smaller ships around Earth's strategic military installations. They had mapped our defenses, completely before ever revealing themselves. In a small office away from the main chamber, Colonel Kim studied these reports with growing frustration. A career military officer with experience in unconventional warfare, she had been brought to Geneva as an advisor, but it was becoming clear that the council was moving toward surrender. They've done this before, said Professor June, an astrophysicist, who had been analyzing the Talian communications. Their message contains references to standard protocols, integration procedures. This is routine for them. That could be their weakness, Kim replied, tapping her fingers on the desk thoughtfully. When something becomes routine, you get comfortable. You miss things. Back in the main chamber, the council prepared to deliver Earth's response. 17 hours after the initial transmission, with militaries worldwide confirming they could not guarantee any effective defense, the vote was held. Surrender: 137 nations. Resistance: 59 nations. The council president, looking decades older than he had the day before, prepared to deliver humanity's capitulation, but Colonel Kim was already moving. In a secured communication room, she activated a network that had been created years ago for an entirely different kind of global emergency. Secret military channels, civilian infrastructure specialists, communications experts, people placed strategically around the world who could operate independently if necessary. This is Eagle Actual, she said into the secure line. Initiate Scorched Protocol. Council has voted for surrender. We are going underground. As Earth's official representatives prepared to accept Talian terms, Kim's network began the real work. They would study the invaders, learn their weaknesses, and unlike every other species the Talians had encountered, humans would not simply accept their fate. Outside the council building, ordinary people watched the skies with a mixture of fear and wonder. They didn't yet know that in accepting the Talian Empire's terms, Earth was gaining time. Time that Colonel Kim and others like her would use to prepare the most unexpected resistance the galaxy had ever seen. Because if there was one thing the Talians would learn about humans, it was that we never truly accept defeat, even when we appear to surrender. Life under Talian rule changed everything. 3 months after the surrender, their control centers stood like gleaming silver thorns piercing the skylines of major cities. Sleek shuttles traveled between them, carrying Talian officials whose translucent skin glowed faintly in the dark. They brought technologies that seemed magical. Devices that could purify water instantly, heal certain diseases with light, and generate power without pollution. But these gifts came with a price. Resource collection facilities appeared in resource-rich regions: the Amazon, Central Africa, Northern Canada, the Australian outback. Massive machines extracted minerals humans had never even considered valuable. Farmland was repurposed for growing strange crops that would be shipped off-world. People who complained disappeared overnight. "Remember, cooperation ensures comfort," the public announcements would say in that too-smooth translated voice. The message played hourly in cities worldwide. Most people kept their heads down. They went to their assigned jobs. They accepted the new reality. What choice did they have? The Talians had technology centuries beyond human understanding, but not everyone accepted this new world order. In an abandoned mining tunnel deep beneath the Korean mountains, Colonel Kim studied a holographic map projected from stolen Talian tech. Around her gathered 30 men and women, former military personnel, engineers, hackers, and ordinary citizens, united by their refusal to submit. "The Siberian harvesting facility has the lightest security," she said, pointing to a blinking dot on the map. "They don't expect trouble. No species has ever given them trouble before." "Their confidence will be their downfall," said Chief Engineer Park, a stocky man who had once designed power plants before turning his skills to resistance. He held up a device cobbled together from human and Talian parts. "We've confirmed. It works on a small scale. Their systems go haywire when exposed to this specific frequency." The discovery had been accidental. A resistance cell in Brazil had noticed Talian guards becoming disoriented near certain old human broadcasting equipment. Kim's network had spent weeks testing different electromagnetic outputs until they found the sweet spot, a frequency that disrupted the complex bioelectric systems that powered Talian technology, and apparently their bodies as well. "We hit the facility, disable their systems, and gather all the intelligence we can," Kim continued. "Most importantly, we show people that resistance is possible." The mission launched 3 days later. A small team infiltrated the Siberian facility during a snowstorm, using the weather to mask their approach. They planted Park's devices, which they'd nicknamed Hummers, at key points around the perimeter. When activated, the effect was immediate and more dramatic than they'd dared hope. The Talian guards stumbled, clutching their heads. The facility's lights flickered and died. Security barriers disappeared. For 8 precious minutes, the resistance team moved through the complex, downloading data, collecting samples of Talian technology, and placing charges at structural weak points. They were gone before the backup systems came online, disappearing into the swirling snow as the facility behind them partially collapsed. The news spread despite the Talians' control of official channels. People whispered about it in food lines. Information packets bounced between private devices on cobbled-together networks. Grainy video footage of Talian guards stumbling helplessly played on screens in hidden basement gatherings. Someone had fought back and won. High Commander Day was not amused. In his private chambers atop the Seoul Control Center, he reviewed the security footage with growing concern. Nothing like this had happened in his entire career of planetary integration. "It's an anomaly," his second-in-command assured him. "A minor setback." "No," Day replied, his bioluminescent organs pulsing with agitation. It's a spark. And sparks, if not extinguished immediately, become fires. He ordered increased security at all facilities. Patrols were doubled. Humans found with unauthorized technology were to be publicly punished. An example needed to be made. But the resistance was already growing. In hidden places around the globe, people studied the data stolen from Siberia. They discovered weaknesses in Talian communication protocols. They learned that the aliens relied heavily on automated systems, because their actual numbers were surprisingly small. Most importantly, they learned the Talians were afraid of something, afraid enough to build an empire based on immediate surrender and swift punishment of defiance. The data hinted at ancient conflicts, at threats lurking between the stars that even the mighty Talians feared. 6 weeks after Siberia, a Talian patrol disappeared in Rio de Janeiro. 3 days later, a communications relay in Egypt went offline. A supply transport was raided outside Johannesburg. Small actions, but coordinated. Growing bolder. In his mountain headquarters, now housing over 100 resistance fighters, Colonel Kim received reports from cells worldwide. They were still hopelessly outmatched in terms of technology and firepower. But humans had something the Talians had never encountered before: the absolute refusal to accept defeat. They've conquered 1,000 worlds, Kim told her growing army, but they've never tried to conquer Earth before. They don't understand what they're dealing with. The resistance had a long way to go, but as the stolen Talian data had revealed, no other species in the known galaxy had lasted even this long against the Empire. No one else had fought back at all. The spark of defiance had been lit, and human history was full of stories about what happened when oppressors underestimated the determination of those who yearned to be free. 6 months into the occupation, the resistance had evolved from desperate acts of defiance into something the Talians had never encountered before: an adaptive, learning opponent. What had begun as isolated cells now formed a loose but effective network spanning continents, sharing information through cunningly repurposed technology and old-fashioned methods the aliens overlooked. Fishermen carried messages between coastal villages. Truck drivers smuggled parts and people across borders. Children passed notes that looked like homework but contained coded instructions. The resistance used the Talians' blind spots against them, communicating through methods so primitive the advanced conquerors never thought to monitor them. In the heart of the Amazon rainforest, Colonel Kim stood in what had once been a wildlife research station. Now it served as one of dozens of resistance hubs worldwide. Maps covered the walls, marking Talian installations and successful resistance operations. Stolen alien tech hummed alongside modified human devices. "They're starting to take us seriously," she said to the assembled team leaders, "which means they'll get more aggressive. We need to accelerate our plans." The most surprising development in their fight had come from an unexpected source. 3 weeks earlier, a resistance cell in Australia had raided a Talian prisoner transport and discovered something extraordinary. The aliens weren't just holding humans captive. Commander Lee, a former naval intelligence officer who now ran operations in the Pacific region, stepped forward. Behind him stood a being unlike anything the resistance fighters had seen before. It stood nearly 7 feet tall with 4 arms and skin like polished copper. Its eyes, 3 of them, blinked horizontally. "This is Noor," Lee said. "He's from a world called Lyra 9, conquered by the Talians 800 years ago." Noor bowed his head slightly. When he spoke, his voice came through a crude translation device cobbled together by resistance engineers. "Your species does what none has done before," he said. "You fight the unbeatable. This gives hope to those who lost it generations ago." More alien prisoners had been liberated in subsequent raids. They came from a dozen different worlds, each with their own stories of Talian conquest. Some had been servants for generations. Others, like Noor, had been captured from worlds still under integration and transported to Earth to help manage the human population. Each brought valuable intelligence. The Talians' empire spanned 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. They conquered through overwhelming technological superiority and psychological domination. They expected immediate surrender because they had always received it. No species has ever, maintained resistance past the first phase of integration, Noor explained. Your adaptability surprises them. Your willingness to sacrifice unnerves them. The resistance put this knowledge to good use. Hidden bases sprang up in places the Talians considered uninhabitable, deep underwater research stations abandoned. Before the invasion, remote mountain outposts and even a secret facility on the far side of the moon, reactivated by former astronauts who had hijacked a Talian shuttle. They learned to repurpose Talian technology. The aliens' neural interfaces could be modified to allow humans to control their machines. Their energy weapons could be recalibrated. Their communication systems could be hacked, if only briefly, but the resistance paid a heavy price. After the raid on a major supply depot in Cairo, the Talians initiated collective punishment. In Shanghai, they rounded up thousands of citizens and held them in the central plaza without food or water. This is the consequence of defiance, High Commander Day announced through hovering broadcast drones. Surrender the resistance leaders within 3 days, or these humans will be processed for off-world labor camps. The resistance had no intention of surrendering, but they couldn't let innocent people suffer. In the secret command center beneath, Seoul Colonel Kim and her team formulated a desperate plan. It's too risky, said Technical Officer Ryun, studying the holographic model of Shanghai. We don't have enough people or resources. We have something better, Kim replied. We have the Talians' arrogance. The operation was the largest the resistance had ever attempted. Teams from across Asia converged on Shanghai, using the city's ancient tunnel systems to move undetected. They brought with them devices that could mimic Talian command frequencies, technology, developed with the help of their alien allies. The plan hinged on the Talians' rigid hierarchy. Lower-ranking officers never questioned orders from above. They relied on authentication codes rather than personal confirmation. As dawn broke over Shanghai on the third day, the resistance struck. Spoofed commands sent half the Talian security forces to deal with a non-existent threat at the spaceport. Other teams used electromagnetic disruptors to create a communications blackout. In the confusion, resistance fighters moved through the plaza, guiding civilians to safety through pre-arranged escape routes. What the Talians had intended as a demonstration of their power became a symbol of their vulnerability. Images of confused alien guards and fleeing civilians spread worldwide through the resistance network. Most importantly, the Shanghai operation revealed something crucial. The Talians were spread thin. Despite their technological advantage, they simply didn't have the numbers to maintain complete control if humans refused to cooperate. In the following weeks, acts of defiance multiplied. Workers at integration centers slowed their pace. Farmers accidentally damaged harvesting equipment. Civilians quietly disappeared from registration rolls, joining the growing shadow society that operated beyond Talian control. They expected us to be like the others, Colonel Kim told her expanding council of resistance leaders, human and alien alike. They expected fear to keep us in line. They never considered that humans might prefer a dangerous freedom to a comfortable slavery. The resistance was no longer just fighting for Earth. They were becoming something more. The first real challenge the Talian Empire had faced in thousands of years, and a beacon of hope for countless subjugated worlds across the galaxy. 1 year into the occupation, the resistance had transformed from scattered groups into a unified force with a clear objective. The days of simple sabotage were over. Now they were ready to take the fight directly to the Talians. Dawn broke over the secret lunar base, a repurposed mining facility hidden in the shadow of a crater wall. Through the reinforced viewport, Earth hung like a blue jewel against the black void. Colonel Kim studied it, thinking of all they had accomplished and all that remained to be done. The fleet is ready, said Lieutenant Han, approaching with a tablet displaying real-time updates from around the solar system. Once an Air Force pilot, Han now commanded the Resistance's growing space division, a collection of stolen Talian shuttles and retrofitted human spacecraft. And the ground teams, Kim asked, in position worldwide. They're waiting for the signal. Kim nodded, turning away from the viewport. The command center bustled with activity. humans working alongside the growing number of alien defectors who had joined their cause. On the main screen, a countdown ticked away the minutes until the most ambitious operation in human history began. Operation Thunderstrike targeted the heart of the Talion occupation, the massive command vessels that orbited Earth, coordinating the alien forces below. Intelligence gathered over months had revealed a critical vulnerability in the Talion fleet. Their ships communicated through quantum entanglement, theoretically unhackable. But every 36 hours, they performed a synchronization sequence, briefly connecting to a more conventional network. "It's a small window," Technical Officer Ryun explained during the final briefing. 17 seconds where their systems are vulnerable. If we hit all 5 command ships simultaneously during that window, we can upload our virus before they can react. The virus was Ryun's masterpiece, a piece of code that incorporated elements of Talion programming language with human ingenuity. It wouldn't destroy their systems outright, but it would give the resistance control of critical functions for approximately 4 hours. "That's our window to capture the primary command node," Kim told the assembled team leaders. "If we succeed, we gain access to their tactical network and control of every Talion system on Earth." As the countdown reached 0, resistance cells worldwide sprang into action. Disguised as routine maintenance, teams of engineers approached Talion ground installations, fighter groups launched from hidden airfields, and in space, Han's makeshift fleet moved into attack position. The synchronization window opened, and for 17 crucial seconds, the most powerful warships in the galaxy became vulnerable. The virus uploaded successfully to 4 of the 5 targets. The 5th detected the intrusion and initiated emergency protocols, but it was already too late. Across the globe, Talion defense systems went offline. Security barriers disappeared. Communications fell silent. In the confusion, resistance forces struck with precision, seizing key installations with minimal casualties on both sides. In orbit, Han's fleet engaged the command vessels. The battle was brief but intense. Talion weapons could have destroyed the human ships in seconds, but with their targeting systems compromised, they fired blindly into space. One by one, Han's pilots attached boarding pods to the massive alien. "Ships, we're in," Han's voice crackled over the command channel. Proceeding to the control center, the boarding teams faced stiff resistance. Talion guards fought desperately, their crystalline weapons slicing through the makeshift armor of the human attackers. But the resistance fighters pressed forward, using their electromagnetic disruptors to disorient the aliens in close quarters. On the primary command vessel, Han's team reached the central computer core, a massive crystalline structure that pulsed with bioluminescent light. Following Ryun's instructions, they connected human interface devices to specific nodes, bypassing the alien security systems. "We're downloading now," Han reported, voice tight with tension. 80%, 90%, download complete. Back. At the lunar base, the command center erupted in cheers as data began streaming in. For the first time, humans had complete access to the Talion tactical network, and what they discovered changed everything. "This is incredible," Ryun said, eyes wide as he scanned through the information. "It's not just tactical data. It's their entire communication network. We can see messages between ships, between worlds." The information revealed a startling truth. The Talion Empire was facing challenges across multiple fronts. Resources were stretched thin. Other conquered species were showing signs of unrest, inspired by Earth's resistance. The Empire had never faced simultaneous problems on so many worlds. Most significantly, they discovered that High Commander Day had been sending increasingly desperate messages to the Imperial core, requesting reinforcements that never arrived. In his private communications, he expressed growing concern about the human resistance's effectiveness. "They're afraid of us," Kim said softly, reading through the translated messages. "They've never encountered anything like this before." But the data held one more surprise: a secure communication channel that connected to other occupied worlds. Lieutenant Han spent hours decrypting it, finally gaining access to a network that spanned the galaxy. "It's some kind of underground resistance communication," she explained, showing Kim the decoded messages, "not just from Earth, from dozens of worlds. They've been watching us, learning from us. Messages from across the stars poured in, many in languages their translators couldn't process. But the meaning was clear. Earth's defiance had ignited hope throughout the Talion Empire. Species that had been subjugated for generations were beginning to question their chains. As the operation entered its final phase, resistance forces worldwide secured their objectives with minimal losses. The captured Talion supercomputer gave them unprecedented access to alien technology and communications. For the first time since the invasion, humanity held the advantage. In the command center, Colonel Kim addressed her team, their faces tired but triumphant after 26 hours of continuous operations. "Today we proved that the Talion Empire is not invincible," she said. "But our fight is no longer just for Earth. Across the galaxy, oppressed peoples are looking to us as an example. We have a responsibility not just to liberate our world, but to help others liberate theirs." As if in response, another message appeared on the central screen, this one from a world called Lyra 9, homeworld of their ally Noor. "The chains begin to break," it read. "The uprising has begun." The snow fell gently outside the window of the Alpine Conference Center, once a luxury resort and now the neutral ground where humanity's future would be decided. Colonel Kim watched as Talion diplomats filed into the meeting room, their crystalline armor catching the light. The aliens moved with less confidence than they had shown a year ago when they first arrived with their ultimatums and promises of benevolent occupation. High Commander Day entered last, his translucent skin showing the dimmed bioluminescence of stress or fatigue. Kim had never seen a Talion look tired before. It was a satisfying sight. "Please be seated," said the United Earth Council President, a position that had once been ceremonial, but now carried the weight of genuine authority. "This meeting will now commence." No one had imagined this day would come, representatives of Earth sitting across from Talion leadership as equals rather than subjects. The tables had turned dramatically in the 3 months since Operation EU Thunderstrike. With access to the Talion tactical network, the resistance had systematically dismantled the occupation infrastructure. Supply lines were disrupted. Command centers were isolated. The vast majority of alien forces had been contained rather than killed. The resistance had insisted on minimizing casualties whenever possible. But the true game changer had been the interstellar communication network they'd discovered. Humanity had wasted no time sending detailed instructions to other subjugated worlds, explaining the Talions' weaknesses, sharing technology modifications, and coordinating simultaneous acts of resistance. The results had been spectacular. Within weeks, reports came back of successful uprisings on 12 worlds, then 20, then over 50. The mighty Talion Empire, unchallenged for millennia, suddenly found itself fighting brush fires across 3 galactic arms. "We are prepared to discuss terms," High Commander Day began, his translated voice lacking the smooth confidence it once projected. "The Empire recognizes that the current situation is unsustainable." Kim exchanged glances with Lieutenant Hani and Chief Engineer Park, both now serving as military advisors to the Council. This admission alone represented an unprecedented victory. "Before we begin," the Council President replied, "we want to be clear. We're not just negotiating for Earth. We represent a coalition of free worlds." On cue, the doors opened, and representatives from 7 formerly subjugated species entered the room. Among them was Noor, now the official ambassador from a liberated Lyra 9. The Talion diplomats shifted uncomfortably at this display of interspecies cooperation. The negotiations lasted for days. The Talions initially offered Earth special status within the Empire, autonomy without precedent, access to advanced technology, and privileged trading rights. In return, they wanted humanity's help in stabilizing the growing rebellion across the galaxy. "You misunderstand our position," Colonel Kim said during a particularly tense exchange. "We're not looking for special treatment while others remain enslaved. We're looking for fundamental change." What became clear during the talks was how deeply shaken the Talion leadership had been by humanity's resistance. Their empire had been built on a foundation of psychological domination. The belief that resistance was futile had been as powerful as their advanced weapons. Once that belief was shattered, the entire imperial structure began to crumble. "Your species is unlike any we have encountered," Commander Day admitted privately to Kim during a break in the formal talks. "We expected you to be like the others. We were unprepared." "For what?" Kim asked. "Our technology? Our tactics?" "For your refusal to accept defeat," Day replied. "Even when defeat was certain, you continued to fight. This is not logical." Kim smiled. "That's the most human thing about us." On the 7th day, the breakthrough came. The Talion Empire would withdraw completely from Earth. More significantly, they agreed to a revolutionary new approach for their interactions with other worlds, a galactic council where all species would have representation, including those previously conquered. "This is unprecedented," Noor told Kim as they reviewed the final agreement. "For thousands of years, the Talions have only understood domination and submission. The concept of cooperation between equals is foreign to them. They're adaptable," Kim replied. "They had to be to build an empire. Now they'll adapt to a new reality." The signing ceremony was broadcast worldwide and, using the communications network, to dozens of other planets. As the Council President and High Commander Day pressed their thumbs to the digital document, cheers erupted from crowds gathered in city squares across Earth. 3 weeks later, Kim stood on the observation deck of Earth's first true interstellar vessel, a ship built with a combination of human ingenuity and Talion technology. Behind her, a crew of human and alien engineers prepared for the inaugural voyage. "Where to first, Colonel?" asked Lieutenant Han, now captain of the vessel. "Lyra 9, Kim replied. "Then Proxima Centauri. We have allies waiting for us." The ship, named Hope, rose smoothly from its launch pad as thousands watched. In cities worldwide, people celebrated not just their freedom, but their new place in a much larger community of worlds. As Earth grew smaller in the viewports, Kim reflected on how much had changed in just over a year. The Talions had arrived expecting another routine conquest. Instead, they had encountered something that their thousands of years of imperial experience hadn't prepared them for. A species that valued freedom more than security, that would rather fight against impossible odds than live in comfortable subjugation. "The Empire is changing," Noor said, joining Kim at the viewport. "Already reforms are spreading. Worlds that have been under Talion control for generations are establishing their own governments. They look to Earth as an example." "We just showed them it was possible," Kim replied. "Every species has the capacity for self-determination. Sometimes they just need to be reminded." As the Hope accelerated toward its first destination, carrying representatives from Earth to meet with newly liberated worlds, Kim knew that humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning. The age of conquest was ending. The age of cooperation was dawning. And it had all started because when faced with an unstoppable empire, humans had done what no one else had done before. They had simply refused to be stopped.